The Battle of Plassey, fought on June 23, 1757, stands as a pivotal moment in Indian history. It was a day that would mark the beginning of a new era, one that would see the rise of British dominance in the Indian subcontinent. On a sultry field near the Bhagirathi River in Bengal, two forces collided, forever altering the destiny of a subcontinent. The humid air was thick with tension, as soldiers on both sides prepared for a battle that would decide the fate of millions. This was not merely a battle for territory, it was a clash of empires, a struggle for control of trade and vast riches. The ancient trade routes of India, which had been the lifeblood of empires for centuries, were now the prize for which these forces fought. On one side stood the young Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Dowlah, representing the waning might of the Mughal Empire. His determination to defend his territory was matched only by the desperation of his situation as the once mighty Mughal Empire crumbled around him. On the other, a force of the British East India Company, a seemingly insignificant trading company harbouring ambitions far grander than the exchange of spices and silk. This company, with its disciplined soldiers and strategic acumen, sought to expand its influence and control over the rich lands of India. The stage was set for a confrontation that would reverberate through the annals of history. The preparations were meticulous, the strategies carefully crafted, as both sides knew that the outcome of this battle would shape the future of the region. This battle, however, was about more than just military strength. It was a complex web of alliances, betrayals, and political maneuvering. The soldiers on the battlefield were not just fighting with weapons, but with the weight of their leaders' decisions and the intricate plans laid out in secret meetings. Intrigue, betrayal, and cunning diplomacy would play as much of a role as muskets and cannons. The alliances formed in the shadows, the promises made and broken, all contributed to the unfolding drama. Key figures on both sides engaged in secret negotiations, each trying to outmaneuver the other. The outcome of Plassey would hinge on the choices made by individuals, their ambitions, and their willingness to betray the trust of their own people for personal gain. The decisions made in the heat of the moment, the personal ambitions that drove men to act against their own interests, all played a crucial role in the final outcome. The Battle of Plassey was not just a military engagement, it was a turning point, a moment when the future of a nation was decided by the actions of a few. Siraj-ud-Dowlah ascended to the throne of Bengal in 1756, inheriting a realm teeming with wealth, a land of opulence and grandeur where the riches of the East converged. But this wealth was accompanied by a labyrinth of internal strife, a web of intrigue and power struggles that threatened the stability of his rule. His reign began under a cloud of suspicion, his claim to power challenged by rivals within the court. These rivals, emboldened by their own ambitions, saw the young Nawab as an obstacle to their own ascent. The young Nawab was known for his quick temper and his suspicion of European powers, particularly the British East India Company, whose influence in Bengal had grown steadily in recent decades. The British, with their strategic acumen and relentless pursuit of profit, had become a formidable presence. The British, initially humble traders, had gradually expanded their presence, constructing fortified trading posts and amassing considerable wealth. These trading posts were not just centres of commerce, but also symbols of their burgeoning power. This growing influence, coupled with their blatant disregard for local customs and taxes, fueled resentment among the Nawab and his court. The British often flouted the traditions and norms that were deeply ingrained in Bengali society, creating a chasm of mistrust. Siraj-ud-Dowlah viewed the British with a mix of envy and distrust, recognizing their growing power as a threat to his own authority. He saw their wealth and influence as a direct challenge to his sovereignty. The relationship between the Nawab and the British was a powder keg waiting for a spark. The tension was palpable, with each side wary of the other's next move. Siraj-ud-Dowlah, eager to assert his authority and curtail the growing influence of the company, saw an opportunity to curb their ambitions. He began to strategize, rallying his forces and seeking alliances to strengthen his position. The British, sensing weakness in the young Nawab, saw a chance to further their own agenda. They were adept at exploiting divisions and saw Siraj-ud-Dowlah's inexperience as a vulnerability to be leveraged. The stage was set for a confrontation that would have far-reaching consequences. The clash between Siraj-ud-Dowlah and the British East India Company was not just a battle for control of Bengal, but a pivotal moment that would shape the future of the Indian subcontinent. The stakes were high, and the outcome would reverberate through history, altering the course of empires and the destiny of nations. The simmering tensions between Siraj-ud-Dowlah and the British East India Company finally boiled over in 1756. For years, the British had been expanding their influence in India, often at the expense of local rulers and their authority. Siraj-ud-Dowlah, the young and ambitious Nawab of Bengal, had grown increasingly wary of the British presence and their intentions. The situation was a powder keg waiting for a spark. The incident that ignited this tinderbox occurred at Fort William in Calcutta. This fort was a symbol of British power and their growing foothold in Bengal. The British, always cautious of their European rivals, especially the French, had begun fortifying their trading post in Calcutta without seeking the Nawab's permission. This act of defiance was seen as a direct challenge to Siraj-ud-Dowlah's authority. The British, fearing a French attack during the 7 Years' War, had taken it upon themselves to strengthen their defences. They believed that by fortifying their position, they could better protect their interests and maintain their dominance in the region. However, this move was not just about defence, it was also a statement of their growing power and influence in Bengal. Siraj-ud-Dowlah, outraged by this blatant disregard for his authority, saw it as a provocation and an attempt to undermine his sovereignty. To him, the British actions were not just a breach of protocol, but a direct threat to his rule. The Nawab's court was abuzz with discussions and debates on how to respond to this affront. The young Nawab, determined to assert his authority, decided that a strong response was necessary. In response, the Nawab marched on Calcutta with a large army, capturing the city and taking control of Fort William. The siege was swift and decisive, showcasing the might of the Nawab's forces. The British, caught off guard, were unable to mount a significant defence. The fall of Fort William was a significant blow to British prestige and their sense of invincibility in the region. What followed was a tragic event that would further inflame tensions and serve as a pretext for war. The capture of Fort William led to the imprisonment of a large number of British soldiers and civilians. The chaos and confusion of the battle had left many British citizens vulnerable and at the mercy of the Nawab's forces. A large number of British prisoners, including women and children, were allegedly imprisoned in a cramped guardhouse known as the Black Hole of Calcutta. The conditions were dire, with little ventilation and extreme overcrowding. The prisoners suffered immensely, and many did not survive the night. This incident would become one of the most infamous episodes in the history of British India. Though the exact details and death toll remain a subject of historical debate, the incident was seized upon by the British as a horrifying example of Mughal cruelty. The British press sensationalised the event, portraying it as a barbaric act that demanded retribution. The narrative of the Black Hole of Calcutta became a rallying cry for the British, fueling public outrage and a desire for vengeance. The incident at Fort William marked a turning point in Anglo-Mughal relations. The fragile peace that had existed between the British and the local rulers was shattered. Diplomatic efforts to resolve the conflict were overshadowed by the growing animosity and mistrust between the two sides. The stage was set for a larger confrontation that would reshape the future of Bengal. It provided the British East India Company with the justification it needed to pursue a more aggressive policy in Bengal. The company, driven by both a desire for retribution and the lure of Bengal's immense wealth, began to formulate plans for a military campaign. The goal was not just to avenge the Black Hole incident, but to establish a more dominant and secure position in the region. News of the Black Hole reached London, fueling public outrage and demands for retribution. The British public, already wary of the challenges posed by their colonial ventures, were incensed by the reports of the atrocities committed against their countrymen. The pressure on the British government and the East India Company to act decisively was immense. The company, sensing an opportunity to seize control of Bengal's riches, dispatched a force under the command of a ruthless and ambitious officer, Robert Clive, to avenge the incident and secure their interests. Clive, known for his military acumen and unyielding determination, was the perfect choice to lead this campaign. His mission was clear: to restore British honour, exact retribution, and lay the groundwork for British dominance in Bengal. The stage was set for a confrontation that would change the course of history in the Indian subcontinent. Robert Clive, a young officer in the British East India Company, arrived in India with a reputation for ruthlessness and a keen eye for opportunity. Clive possessed a combination of military acumen, political shrewdness, and a ruthless ambition that would ultimately make him both a hero in Britain and a figure of controversy in India. Recognizing the fragility of the Mughal Empire and the internal divisions within the Nawab's court, Clive saw a chance to exploit the situation to the company's advantage. He understood that a direct military confrontation with the numerically superior forces of Siraj-ud-Dawla would be risky. Instead, he opted for a strategy of intrigue and manipulation, seeking to undermine the Nawab by exploiting the existing rivalries and discontent within his own ranks. Clive's plan centered on finding a collaborator within the Nawab's court, someone willing to betray their leader in exchange for power and wealth. He found his man in Mir Jafar, a powerful general in Siraj-ud-Dawla's army, who harbored ambitions of seizing the throne for himself.